Welcome everybody to Courageous Conversations. In this episode, we're going to talk about people first. But before we get started on our conversation about people first, I want to put one of my people first. I got an email yesterday from a friend, and this friend of mine wanted to address the elephant in the room. No artwork on the walls. I do want to say thank you for that, and I appreciate it. So here's a little artwork for you. Okay. And oh, by the way, I wanted to put up one more piece of artwork just for you. I wanted to show you all what I enjoy doing the most at my place here. And that's having a campfire with my family and my little puppy over there. So a little bit of artwork for you, my friend, and off we go. So,
what can't you do, Shelly?
Gosh, shoot basketball. Horrible at it. Somebody want to teach me? I'm yours. And golf.
See, that should be our team building thing. Okay.
Golf for sure. All right. So anyway, yeah, today's topic is about people first, and this idea kind of came to me a while back. Actually, for a long while now. We used to have 2 dogs. We're down to 1 now. We had to put one of our friends to rest this fall. And but Ginger, she was our big lab, and she was always the leader of the pack, or so she thought. There was one thing that Ginger couldn't do, and that was operate the doors. And so every time that Ginger and our other little dog Ava would go to the door, I would always kind of bark at them, "Hey, people first." And that really stuck with me when it came to talking about HR and leadership and things like that too, because with people first with the dogs, well, again, the dogs couldn't operate the door. It was me that operated the door. So that was kind of that little aha moment, and how I could tie it to maybe helping coach leaders, that we do have to remember it's our people first. And there's power in putting the people first. Without the people in the situation with the dogs, the doors wouldn't open or close. And without the power in putting the people first in our leadership positions in the telecom industry, or any other service industry, as a matter of fact, you're doing yourself a disservice, because the power is with them. And if you take care of your people, they take care of your customers, and your customers are going to keep coming back. And that's what we're talking about here when we say people first. And when our people feel valued and cared for, they do their work with a lot of motivation, a purpose, and higher engagement. So yeah, I want to say empower your people.
I completely agree, Shelly. I think that's such a good point, and I love the topic. And I think you and I end up talking quite a bit about this kind of stuff, and we could probably talk all day, but we promise we will keep it under 15, 20 minutes.
15 minutes or so. You might run over, you never know.
Yeah. And I think another, and like we had talked about earlier too, another point in this as well is, not only are you putting the power in your people, like Shelly said, and they're taking care of your customers, they're taking maybe care of each other, cohesive teamwork and stuff like that, but they're also taking care of you. In a way, there's power in you doing that too. If you're the supervisor, a lead, or manager, or whatever it is, and everyone in your department is just able to handle everything that kind of comes across their plate, it makes you look good. And who doesn't like that either, right?
Yeah.
I think earlier we had talked about, have you set, realistic kind of lines in the sand in terms of, what your folks are able to accomplish without, running it past you or getting your approval and that kind of a thing. And, when your employees are the very front runners of your company, they're the boots on the ground, they're the voice over the phone, sometimes your customers hunt them down in the grocery store on a Saturday. Do your employees have the power to make a judgment call right on the spot? Do they know that they can issue a $25 credit? Do they know that they can, stack on a movie channel during the holidays for somebody to try it out and hopefully upsell them later? those are the things that we're talking about here. If you empower your folks to have those conversations and they know exactly how and when they can operate within these parameters, they're not coming to you all of the time, or maybe when you're busy or whatever. Everybody's busy, so that's kind of relative. But do they know when they can make the judgment call and they can make a customer happy, and in turn then make the company look good, make you look good. And unfortunately, along with that, other departments are going to be headhunting your employees. It comes to that kind of stuff, but it's all for the good of the company.
I would agree, Jenna. And, part of empowering your group, it really does naturally, a natural progression of that is a collaborative learning environment. So you have this whole group of folks that are empowered in your specific area, and they know what they can do as a team. It just grows from there. I've seen teams that have just done a 180 on themselves, knowing that they can actually work together and say, hey, we've been able to do this before for another customer. Let's do the same thing for this one and see how that works. And again, you're empowering individuals, you are fostering a learning environment, and it's collaborative. And when you have a collaborative team, they're willing to go to whatever lengths it is to serve your customers and keep your customers coming back. So I would say that's a big positive of upfront putting your people first. Now, so we talked about upfront and putting your people first, and all of our other courageous conversations we've talked about, well, kind of dealing with a dark side or, of HR and how those courageous conversations work in. So I kind of wanted to talk about how even putting your people first can be worked into our courageous conversations. And that is when you can still put your people first when you keep an open mind. And we've covered this many times before, but we do want to make sure that you're not assuming. So when you are talking with your folks and having those courageous conversations, how you can put them first is not assuming anything. And knowing that it can be personal reasons, and that your employee might not be aware of problematic behavior if that's what's going on. And when you do meet with them, one way is a surefire way to not let your people be first is to have it feel like a principal's office type of meeting. So when you call for a meeting with them, it's basically you just want to sit down and visit, and you want to clear the air on some things. You want to address that little elephant in the room back there. He's back over here actually. And you absolutely putting your people first is having that courageous conversation before you're forced to have a difficult one. It's going to be awkward, guaranteed, but it's not difficult.
I agree. And Shelly brought up a good point earlier too about just to kind of piggyback on that is, don't sugarcoat anything. Like we said, we've said courageous conversations 1,000 times maybe during this series, and it's a real thing. When you are very clear in maybe setting the parameters for which you operate, for which your employees operate, maybe with each other, or addressing some of those things that they can work on, you're not helping them if you're not being clear. If you're ambiguous at all, if you're trying to, and sometimes that might happen when you're trying to sugarcoat something. And that's not at all what we're saying. We're saying you definitely need to have these conversations. You need to be real with them. You need to let them know, look, these are some things that we need to work on, and here is how. And just so you know, I'm here to help. Or by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but the whole point behind this is just using tact when we speak to people, and like Shelly said, not assuming, because a lot of people most often don't even know that they're doing it. We've had so many discussions with folks and just said, hey, look, this is what's happening, and they're like, gosh, I didn't even know I was coming across like that, or I don't view it like that. I'm kind of a introvert, so I didn't mean to be, you know, quiet with you or standoffish or anything like that. And so oftentimes they're just being them. And so, you know, obviously using tact in those kinds of situations is really important, and being absolutely clear, not rude, but very clear in what your expectations are of, you know, how you foresee things going, what their job description is, those kinds of things, and they'll respect you so much more. And this obviously just being real with people, and, you know, also being there, not like in front of or behind them, but beside them, and showing them creates, you know, environment of trust too. And so trust obviously goes a long ways when people, you know, maybe are out on a limb or a little bit out of their comfort zone. They're going to continue to work for you. They're going to continue to work for the company. And of course, you know, first and foremost, the customer. They're going to make sure that they're happy and their needs are taken care of. And they know at the end of the day, if they're doing that, they have your trust, and that you'll support their decisions and whatever they decide.
And, you know, I want to kind of round this out with that trust. How we can go about doing that is leading with empathy and really finding out why. So what is their motivator? When we find out what their motivator is, or maybe the reason, just the reason why they're doing something, can really help us get to the end point and a resolution. I do want to remind everybody that even in the best of times, it's not easy having courageous conversations. Right now we're dealing with pandemic. And so I want you to remember and keep in mind that there are physical, mental health struggles, family struggles, uncertainty. There's a lot of that going around. So when you do have that conversation, remember to keep all of that in mind. When you are conveying your concerns, make sure to keep it neutral. So watch your tone of voice and your body language, and remember to stick to the facts. In most instances, the courageous conversations, you're dealing with people, they are at their most vulnerable. So if you approach in the right mindset and you strive to make your employees feel comfortable with that trust, you are definitely going to get them to open up and reveal the issue a lot easier. So it's a matter of taking a little bit of extra time. A lot of us operate in, okay, task. And this is one of those tasks where you just have to devote a little extra time to. It takes preparation on your part, and you also should remember to know what your triggers are and try to avoid those in those situations when you put your people first.
Love it. Completely agree, Shelly.
And so that's kind of, I think, all we had to touch on today for putting people first. We want to thank you for joining us again for Courageous Conversations. If you have any topics and you want this to continue for another couple weeks, let us know what you have in mind, and we'd be happy to touch on whatever conversation that you think needs to be brought up.
Agreed. Thank you all for joining us. Okay. It was kind of late on hitting stop there.
I think it's still recording, but that's okay.